Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Bon après-midi tout le monde. Merci pour avoir venu aujourd'hui. I'd like to open this special meeting of council. Roll call. All members of council are here and accounted for. We will move for the adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. This is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing and hearing none. We'll move to the topic at hand, which would be the public consultation hearings. Item 4A, Township of Russell Official Plan Review, Report PD 2024-22. And this is a Planning Act requirement under Section 26.3, updating official plan, consultation, and special meeting. So I'm going to pass this over to Mr. Bourgon, who's going to be leading us through the process today. Mr. Bourgon?
Merci, membre du Conseil. Donc aujourd'hui, c'est notre première étape dans la révision du plan officiel. So since it's our first step, staff did prepare a presentation, so I'll let Sylvain and Alexis go through our PowerPoint, which is a quick resume of the PDF that's attached to the agenda.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Alors, je vais passer à travers le diapo qui explique en résumé les changements proposés au nouveau plan officiel. So, I'm going to go through a PowerPoint presentation which will provide a resume of what's being proposed as a new OP and the policies behind the Planning Act to permit to do so. Prochaine diapo. So this special meeting is a requirement under the Section 26 of the Planning Act. Cette séance extraordinaire du Conseil est une exigence en vertu de l'article 26 de la Loi sur l'aménagement du territoire. L'objectif de la séance extraordinaire du Conseil est de fournir l'occasion de discuter de manière générale des révisions qui peuvent être requises ou recommandées dans le cadre de la révision du plan officiel du canton. So the purpose of the special meeting of council is to provide an opportunity to generally discuss the revisions that may be required or recommended as part of the Township official plan review. The intent of this meeting is not to review a draft official plan. Alors, l'objectif de cette séance n'est pas d'examiner une ébauche de plan officiel. Prochaine diapo. In accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, an official plan will be reviewed 10 years from the date of adoption and every 5 years thereafter. Alors, conformément aux exigences de la Loi sur l'aménagement du territoire, un plan officiel sera révisé 10 ans après la date d'adoption ou à tous les 5 ans par la suite. The Planning Act also requires that lower-tier municipal official plan must conform with the policies of an upper-tier municipality's official plan within 1 year of those policies taken in effect. La Loi sur l'aménagement du territoire exige également que les plans officiels d'une municipalité soient conformes au niveau supérieur aux politiques du plan officiel de la municipalité supérieure dans un délai de 1 an à compter de l'entrée en vigueur de la politique. Le plan officiel actuel du canton de Russell guide la croissance et le développement du canton jusqu'en 2036. Il est adopté par le Conseil en janvier 2018 et fut approuvé par les comtés unis de Prescott-Russell en mars 2018. So the current Township OP guides growth and development in the Township to 2036 and was adopted by the Council in January 2018 and approved by the counties of Prescott and Russell in March 2018. And recently, the United Counties of Prescott and Russell official plan was adopted and approved by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on July 7, 2023. Alors, le nouveau plan officiel des comtés unis fut récemment approuvé l'été dernier par le ministère des Affaires municipales du Logement le 7 juillet 2023. Prochaine diapo. Depuis l'adoption du plan officiel actuel du canton, des changements importants ont été apportés aux politiques provinciales et régionales. Des questions relatives à l'aménagement du territoire sont également apparues dans le canton. So, since the current official plan was adopted, key provincial and regional policy changes have taken place and new land use planning issues in the township have emerged. As such, an official plan review has been initiated by the township in association with WSP, which is our consultant. Donc, c'est pourquoi qu'une révision plan officiel a été lancée par le canton en association avec les consultants WSP. Les commentaires de la communauté et du conseil municipal aideront à orienter les préparations des politiques mises en œuvre dans le nouveau plan officiel. So, the input from the community and council will help guide the preparation of policies implemented in the new official plan.
And on this slide, we can see an estimated timeline provided to us by WSP from our kickoff meeting with them to the final adoption of the new official plan. Next slide, please. So Part A identifies policy directions. We are currently in Part A of the timeline. So we have completed our kickoff meeting with our consultant, and we have also completed our pre-consultation with the United Counties of Prescott and Russell. Currently, we are in the special council meeting phase, and next would be to finalize the policy directions memo. Next slide, please. Part B identifies the new official plan phase. So in summer of 2024, we are expected preparation of the draft official plan. Fall 2024, we will have the statutory public open house. Then preparation of the final draft official plan. Winter 2025 will be a statutory public meeting. Next will be preparation of the final official plan for council adoption. And spring 2025 is when we are anticipating official plan adoption. Next slide, please. The policy directions memo has identified key policy issues that the updated official plan will aim to identify, including but not limited to housing needs, updates to policy areas, infrastructure, natural heritage and resources, as well as updated definitions and schedules.
Alors, les questions politiques clés qui vont faire partie du plan officiel touchent notamment le besoin en matière de logement, la mise à jour des domaines politiques, l'infrastructure, le patrimoine et ressources naturelles, ainsi que définitions et annexes là, qui sont rajoutés avec ceux de la définition des déclarations de principe provinciales.
Next slide, please. The following policy recommendations have been identified. So under housing needs, residential density targets, additional dwelling units, updated potential future growth areas, affordable housing, and more. Updated policy areas identifies updated permitted uses in the commercial policy area, updated industrial park and village core policies, updated settlement area boundaries, updated residential densities to be consistent, and further.
Alors, les recommandations politiques suivantes ont été identifiées, notamment aux besoins en logement, l'objectif de densité résidentielle, comme par exemple intensifier la densité, unités d'habitation supplémentaires telles que des types d'unités d'habitation secondaire ou habitation accessoire, également une mise à jour des zones de croissance potentielle, de logements abordables, etc. Également, on préconise des mises à jour des zones d'action, donc actualiser les usages autorisés dans la zone politique commerciale, mise à jour des politiques relatives aux parcs industriels et au centre du village, mise à jour des limites de la zone de peuplement, connue également comme les zones de village, et la mise à jour des densités résidentielles.
Next slide, please. Further policy recommendations identify infrastructure, meaning updated road right-of-way widths, updated schedules for serviced and unserviced areas, updated industrial park servicing policies, and further, as well as natural heritage and resource updated policies, and administrative policies such as updating development application processes, consolidating official plan amendments, and updated definitions and schedules, and further.
Alors, des recommandations des politiques vont toucher notamment l'infrastructure, une mise à jour de la largeur des emprises routières, mise à jour les calendriers des zones viabilisées et non viabilisées. Donc, la traduction anglophone est plus service et on-service. Mettre à jour les politiques des services municipaux, des parcs industriels, etc. Également, le patrimoine naturel et ressources. On touche notamment à la mise à jour des politiques en matière de patrimoine naturel, évidemment. Et l'administratif, mise à jour des processus de demande d'aménagement, consolider les amendements du plan officiel, mise à jour des définitions et annexes, etc. Prochaine diapo. Alors, on voit ici sur la première carte à l'écran, c'est un des changements qui a été effectué par l'entremise de l'adoption du plan officiel des Comtés unis. Donc, l'agrandissement des limites urbaines dans les zones de peuplement ont été agrandis pour la propriété qui suit. Alors, juste faire un clic. Et voilà. Alors, ce qu'on peut voir, so what we see on the screen here is the area that's been added to the village limit of the village of Russell. So that was done through the United Counties official plan approval, as mentioned previously, that was adopted by the province in July 2023. So this piece of land is now part of the village boundary of Russell. Therefore, new development would now be permitted in this block, conditional to other provision of the official plan and policies under the Planning Act. But that's one of the major change that's taken place that is affecting our official plan is we need to update our official plan to include that land use to reflect the county's OP. Alors, juste pour mentionner que par défaut, nous devons réviser notre plan officiel pour inclure cette désignation à l'intérieur de la politique du plan officiel du canton de Russell. Prochaine diapo.
Mr. Bogo, just a second. If I can just ask for the public just to keep their conversations as minimal as possible or tone down just so that we can all hear what's going on over at from the staff, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Alors, pour poursuivre maintenant, on voit la région du village d'Embrun. Alors, ce qu'on voit, c'est les limites qui sont existantes au plan officiel de 2018. Alors, prochaine clic, si on voit maintenant, c'est les sections de terrain qui ont été ajoutées pour maintenant faire partie des nouvelles limites du village de Embrun. So these are the new limits that were introduced via the county's official plan. So they're now part of the village boundaries of the town of, or the village of Embrun. So we need to update our official plan to reflect these changes. Alors, encore une fois, nous devons faire la mise à jour dans notre plan officiel pour refléter les changements qui ont été effectués aux Comtés unis. Prochain clic. So this also at the bottom, these areas were designated as trade and industry. And now have been converted into rural policy area under the county's OP. Alors, les terrains qui sont identifiés en vert dans le plan officiel de 2018 sont identifiés comme désignation, affectation des trade and industry, alors économique, et ont été changés à rural, ou vont devoir être changés à rural pour refléter ce qui s'est changé dans le plan officiel des Comtés unis. Alors ça, c'est des changements qui touchent le village d'Embrun. So these are the changes that need to be adopted via this official plan review to reflect the county's OP. Next. So now we are looking at the trade and industry of what is known as the 417 Industrial Park. So again, if you put on the next click, so the pink is the area that were added to the county's official plan schedule. So we also need to incorporate these land to match the county's OP as part of our township official plan. So these are to be designated as same as the other properties that are part of the current industrial park. Prochaine diapo. On voit ici une zone d'études spéciales proposée. Alors, sur le document ébauche qui était joint à la présentation, il y a une cédule qui fait mention d'une étude spéciale. Alors, on peut voir ici deux sections, dont la section en rouge qui coïncide avec les aires urbaines du village de Embrun et Russell, ainsi que des terres qui longent les routes ou les emprises non ouvertes. So in the red, as you see, these are part of the urban settlement area of Embrun and Russell. What's being proposed is to have a special study area to look at the region around these urban areas in order that when there is a new expansion being proposed, we can concentrate our efforts within these area and not go outside in order to protect the agricultural policy area to maintain as is. So the idea is keeping the roads as somewhat of the boundaries. This doesn't mean that that's the future expansion. We still need to meet the requirements in order to justify the expansion, but it's just to give the direction that the focus will be to study within these areas if ever growth is being proposed in either Russell or Embrun. Alors, essentiellement, le focus est de concentrer l'examen des propriétés qui sont identifiées versus prendre tout le canton complet là, pour regarder à faire l'expansion des villages au besoin. Encore une fois, si la population, les projections de population démontrent qu'il n'y a pas un besoin, on n'a pas un besoin d'augmenter les aires urbaines, mais si la croissance continue et avec le temps, on doit faire des agrandissements, c'est l'aire qu'on préconise, là, regarder et mettre notre focus pour l'instant. Et la logique derrière cette proposition, c'est de préserver le côté agricole qui est à l'extérieur de ces zones-là. I will focus now your attention on the green polygon, which is on the upper north portion, which is the 417 Industrial Park. Again, it's the same logic that applies. We identify the area that are bounded by unopened road allowance or existing roads. And again, if there is a need to expand in this area, it would be to focus within this area and to preserve the agricultural policy area that's surrounding these polygons. So, alors, la même logique s'applique. On vise concentrer nos efforts d'expansion aux besoins à l'intérieur de ce polygone afin d'établir là, où est-ce s'il y a un besoin d'agrandir, le focus va être concentré dans ces terrains-là qui sont bornés par des limites, soit des emprises non ouvertes ou des chemins municipaux existants.
Next slide, please. We welcome your comments and feedback at this early stage. There will be public consultation opportunities to provide input and comments throughout Part A and Part B of this process. The Township will be hosting the statutory special council meeting, which is currently being hosted, as well as the statutory public open house in fall 2024 and statutory public meeting anticipated for winter 2025. The Township will provide public notice of public consultation events mentioned above. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We are available to reach by email if there are any further questions, but otherwise we are open to questions and comments at this time.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bogon, Monsieur Boudreau, Ms. Ball. I appreciate that, the information there. So I would assume that any questions or comments raised by members of the public, not necessarily this evening, but by email, can all go to that specific email address, just so we have a consistent message.
That would be correct.
Okay. So take note, it's planning@russell.ca, pretty simple. So if there are questions, comments, concerns after this meeting and up through the entire process, up to including adoption in, was it spring of 2025? In spring of 2025, you will have an opportunity to make your questions, comments, and concerns known. One question that I had, Mr. Bogon, that condensed version of the PowerPoint that you just presented, will that be made available on the website by tomorrow morning or for the public?
It will be available for the public. We will have to take a couple of days we'll separate the English and French to prepare like 2 documents.
Excellent.
So by the end of the week, it will be available for the public.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Because I know the one that's in our package is pretty extensive, so I want to make sure that everyone gets a copy of that one as well. So from there, we will move to questions and comments on matters related to the official plan review. On bouge maintenant au numéro 5, questions et commentaires sur des sujets liés à la révision du plan officiel. So if you have a question, comment, or concern, please come up to the podium, state your name. For the record, please make sure that you sign the sheet that's on the table with your name and address so that we have it and we can register your questions or comments. Just a reminder that questions or comments must be in relation to this agenda item. Again, before asking your question or comment, please fill in your name and address on the sign-in sheet. If you wish to have a response from a member of council or staff, please leave a phone number or email on the sheet. And then once you've signed your name, just state your name. Sign your name and address, just state your name for us. And again, just a disclaimer, by asking questions or comments during the council meeting, you are consenting to be part of the live broadcast and the official public record of the proceedings. Alors, pour les questions ou commentaires doivent porter sur cette question à l'ordre du jour. Avant de poser une question ou commentaire, inscrivez votre nom et votre adresse sur la feuille d'inscription. Si vous souhaitez recevoir une réponse du conseil ou du personnel, laissez un numéro de téléphone ou un courriel. Annoncez uniquement votre nom avant de poser votre question ou vos commentaires. Et juste le clause de non-responsabilité en posant des questions ou un commentaire lors de la réunion du conseil, vous consentez à faire partie de la diffusion en direct et de l'enregistrement officiel public des délibérations. When you come to the podium, please direct all questions to myself as the chair of the meeting, and I will look to get a response or to your questions from staff. The floor is open. You can get in line if you want, if there's more than one person that wants to get up. Well, you can stay seating until it's open.
Okay, Charles Armstrong. I think you all know me by now. A few comments, not really any. Okay, sorry, go right ahead. Good idea. I have a few comments, no real questions. Taking this meeting along with the recent water and wastewater master plan update report, I see there's a real need for a new wastewater treatment plant, and I think that that would be something that should be fixed in the development of the municipality. All new development should be done on that basis of serviced land, if at all possible. And the reason for that is to avoid major expansion into agricultural lands when we can have a more dense increase in population and resident density with serviced lands. So I think that's the big key priority for the council in the next little while, and especially in the official plan, is development on serviced land. So that, as was mentioned, $95 million wastewater treatment plant that we're going to need in the next 6 years or so is a key on the future development of this township, and should be mentioned in the official plan, and in fact should be enforced in the official plan.
Okay, thank you.
Further, the development into our settlement areas, especially residential, costs are a big thing today, and I know one of my children just bought a house in the township, and future costs of the running that and other development costs or whatever are a key in the cost that they had to pay for their house. So I think, again, higher density in our residential development, something that is enforceable in the official plan, is key in controlling the costs of our residences. So that is something that should be there. It should be mentioned in the official plan, not just as a goal for what the density should be, but something that should be absolutely enforceable in the official plan. So the township itself takes the lead in deciding how the development should go in the township, not just depending on the developers to decide. Again, the settlement area expansion, as you've mentioned, that's quite a large expansion intended of the settlement areas if you take in all of the special study area. And in fact, it's probably a 75% expansion of the total area for residences and employment. To do that in the next 25 years is quite a lot, and because of course we've seen from this official plan that in 5 years we can expect most of that to be actually incorporated in the next review. I think we again have to look at density of development so that we don't go into all of those special study areas and take away that agricultural land, because much of that land right today is agricultural land. In other words, we have to stop some of our urban sprawl, or at least slow it down. The other thing I've noticed is that industrial commercial land uses, there's a lot of demand for it to be expanded, the types of use. But I'm not sure that that's a good idea for the township. And I'll have more ideas on that as this progression goes. But I believe that industrial and commercial land uses should be restricted to those that are much more compatible to a small town and a agricultural environment. So heavier industrial uses that I see we should be avoiding, and that should be mentioned in the official plan. Again, any such development I think should be based on serviced land, not on unserviced land, because that again encourages sprawl. Within the urban environment, I believe that we should have a greener environment. And I live in Embrun, and we've all had some complaints about, you drive down the main street in Embrun and all you see are wires, whereas at least in Russell you get some trees. But that's a valid point. And I think that much of our development in both the residential areas and industrial areas needs more of an attention to a green environment. And that means, in some cases, simply planting more trees, and I believe making the trees within the road allowance so that they're township trees, not necessarily private trees. We should have private trees, but we should have much within the township road allowance, so the township takes ownership of those things and then takes the lead and is the example for the environmental development of the township. And I think that has other advantages in that it will ensure that we minimize impact on our stormwater management facilities and the cost of maintaining those going on into the future. That's all I have for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Mr. Bourgon?
Thank you. I would like to add, and for the public benefit and council members, that throughout the next year for the OP review, we are doing our master plan for water and sewer, transportation master plan, affordable housing review. So all those different studies will be included in part of the exercise of the OP review as well.
Okay, Mr. Boudreau?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention that the special study area, it's not looking forward to reach those zone, but but rather to keep the urban sprawl. So exactly, we're trying to push for intensification and avoid having to go that route. We're just trying to limit the overview of if there's a need to which area we need to look at. So the goal is not to bring this in settlement areas in the next 5 years. That's not at all the intent here, but rather to limit and preserve agricultural land, which is all around these polygons.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Mark Van Dusen from North Russell. My questions are about the viability and risk involved in the expansion of the 417 Industrial Park. I'd like to know if there is or was a primary client attracted to the expansion. By primary client, I mean a kind of a keystone client around whom that industrial park expansion may have been centered. If that client is still viable, and if there is council is courting a separate, what I would call primary client, in this case a possible battery-related enterprise, and how crucial if that battery enterprise is, in fact, being attracted, how important it is to the future of expanding this industrial park. And if the battery enterprise doesn't come about, who's the next primary client? I know that's a lot of questions in one, but I don't know how else to ask it. If there is another client in view, because without a primary client, how does the council propose to advance with that industrial park expansion?
Yeah. So let me try to answer a couple of those, and then I'm going to pass it to Mr. Godin, Mr. Boudreau, Mr. Bourgon. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Godin, please correct me if I'm wrong, but right now we have a waiting list for people looking to get into the industrial park. So our land is very valuable to the outside business world to come in and expand here. In terms of individual clients, I don't think we've ever focused on an individual client. Has some come to us? Yes. But have we focused and made all of our decisions based on one client just to expand? I don't believe that's the case, but I'll pass it to Monsieur Godin, who can kind of help us with that, and whether or not there's been additional companies that have come to us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and bonsoir, chers membres du conseil. So you're correct that we do have a waiting list of businesses that are ready to purchase the property in the industrial park. They're waiting on us for the moment as we do our EA for the road expansion and that we bring in services about to be able to sell those lands. And you're correct, we're not targeting any specific individual business. We do have a waiting list and a ranking based on the criteria that was established in our land sale policy. So at this point in time, we did earlier this year sell a few lots, but now we have to finish a process of figuring exactly what the layout of the roads is going to be so that we can determine where we can sell those next lands.
Okay.
So this expansion then is to be built around individual enterprises of no particular size. In other words, not one large major client.
Well, I think there was one large company that did come to us, and we did make an agreement, and then unfortunately that didn't go through, and the door's still open. right? I think they're waiting on additional funding from other sources, but, you know, they may come back to us. That's always a possibility. Other companies, like the one you mentioned, some type of battery, that's the first time I'm hearing of it. But if that's the case, if they want to come here, then we'll listen. Does that mean we are going to actually sell land to them? I have no idea. I don't know what the plan would be until it's in front of me.
I may have misread, Mr. Lauren, but I thought there was a reference to a battery, and I take it that means the lithium battery, either a storage complex or a related enterprise somewhere, if not in the master plan. Is it in the master plan? Is there?
Monsieur Bourgon?
There's been, and I guess I could let Monsieur Bordeaux confirm that, but there's changes in the PPS, so the guideline from the province, and so we need to adjust our OP to reflect the changes to the regulation or the standard at the province level.
So that's to allow those types of businesses within the trade and industry or within our area? Is that what I'm understanding?
I guess we need to identify where not to put them. Just as a proposition, the trade and industry might be a better suitable, but this is not set in stone. You know, we still need to go through the process of doing that. And again, as you said, the industrial park is mostly owned by the township, so we have the power to accept or refuse who we sell the land to. But there are some private lands that are designated as trade and industry also. So yes, as Mr. Bourgon said, it's coming from the province. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have someone that came to us about that. It's just we need to identify where to locate if ever there's someone that approaches us with that type of business.
If I may just sorry.
So, Mr. Godin, just to confirm, we have not received an application to council about any type of a project like that?
No, we haven't, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just to round this out, if I may, because there are other people obviously wanting to ask questions. Those kinds of enterprises, as we know, are pretty controversial these days. And in Eastern Ontario alone, I can name at least 3 or 4 places, municipalities where this type of enterprise has been denied accommodation in industrial parks in those municipalities. So I take this opportunity just to caution, if I may, council on the acceptance of such a proposal in the future. These places are known to be dangerous. These batteries erode after a while. They're prone to explosion, water contamination, all kinds of different things. So that's why I think it's important for council to, and I know you will, keep us well informed on whether such a proposal ever comes forward.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your comments and concerns. Councillor Deakin?
The word ranking was mentioned earlier, and I was wondering if we could hear from administration. Let's say that we have 15 businesses knock on our door tomorrow. How are they going to be ranked? What are we looking for in a partner, someone coming into the township to set up shop?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so thank you for the question, Councilor Deakin. So I don't have the land sale policy in front of me now. I don't know if my colleague, Mr. Desjardins, has more information on that today, but if not, we can definitely send that information out by email.
Monsieur Desjardins?
Yes, we'll send you the information later on.
Thank you. Good. Okay, next.
Good evening. My name's Rhonda Bradley. I live at 159 Edie Road. One of the things that I've observed in both the county's official plan as well as where we seem to be going is that there's a designation of 3 major areas. Settlement, which in our speak is the villages of Inbrim and Russell, primarily. We also have agricultural and we have industrial. My question, and it doesn't need to be answered this evening, is that somewhere in all of that, there are rural residents that live in the outside what is currently considered the settlement areas of Russell, the township of Russell. We are considered to be living in the agricultural, but we don't always or are not always involved in agricultural farming, given the size of our lots and so on. And what I've been noticing over the years is that any time a large industrial player has come to the table, the question always goes, well, let's put it in North Russell. So my question is, for those residents in this community who don't fit the definition of settlement or industrial or agricultural, what protection might we have to continue living the way that we have and belong to this township in a way that feels safe and takes into account our quality of life? Doesn't need to be answered tonight, but it is a huge concern of mine, and I don't see the county or this township addressing its rural community.
Okay, thank you very much. Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Godin, that's noted, and I see you taking notes there, so thank you. Oui.
Bonjour à tous. Merci beaucoup de nous donner l'opportunité de nous exprimer à cette session. My name is Danny Lafont. I live at 587 Notre Dame Street, just past the roundabout on the north side of the Notre Dame, just across the street where the huge, beautiful sport complex is going to be built. So I've been living there for 28 years. I love the place. I love the community. I love all the services that we find here. So now that my kids are grown up, I stopped playing paintball there and riding dirt bike in the field. And I've got 2.95 acres on this property there that basically I cannot do too much on it right now. I cannot separate. I cannot build anything else. There's been a few improvement in my hopes over the years. I can now build a coach house next to my house, which is not exactly what I want to do, but I'd like to see what else I could do with my land, my 2.95, which is a zoned rural residential right now, but there hasn't been anything cultivated there for the past 40 years. And you could probably understand my frustration when I see big developers taking over an entire cow field or cornfield there and building multi-residential units. All I want to do is maybe be able to separate my little 2.95 acres and build something smaller, a retirement home on the side there, or maybe a couple of units there for rental, as we see the demand for affordable rental units there. And what I should have done 28 years ago is start growing marijuana, but I don't need now because there's a store about 200 meters from my house now, as well as an A&W, a gas station, a veterinary next door, and like I said, the complex is going to be built right on the south side of the street, right in front of my house. But again, I cannot do anything with my little parcel of land right now. So I guess at this point, it's more of a comment than anything else, but I would love to meet with one-on-one with one of your counselor or somebody who could discuss the options with me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw it to Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Boudreau. I believe that you've put your information on the sheet. I think somebody should reach out to Monsieur and let him know what he can and can't do with his parcel of land. Monsieur Boudreau.
Yes, that's correct. We're always available to discuss. Today or tonight, I should mention that the special study area, Mr. Lafont's property is within that.
Yes, exactly.
So hopefully that might be a good news for you, of not knowing when exactly an expansion is due, but certainly that piece of land, as you mentioned, is not big. So I don't think there's a major impact to agriculture if ever we take it out of the designation. That being said, we need justification to expand our boundaries, which is done through the county's official plan. So, but we are aware of the property and its location.
Okay. So, absolutely, I think there's an opportunity to meet with I would suggest staff first, make sure that you both understand what you're looking for, what they can do. Official plans there's amendments that happen on a regular basis that can be done if it makes sense and if it meets the criteria. So I would encourage you to reach out to Monsieur Bourgon and Monsieur Boudreau and move forward that way.
Yeah, exactly like you mentioned there, it falls into the special study area now.
Yep.
To be, maybe something's gonna be done in 10, 15 years. But, yeah, I appreciate it. So thank
Yeah.
you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Bonjour, André Brisson.
Bonjour, M. Bisson.
Longtemps qu'on ne s'est pas vu. Pour commencer, j'aimerais juste, j'ai 3 choses à confirmer. Dans votre plan, le E5 et E6, c'est dans sa première page, ça dit parcelle 5, E5 et E6, to be redesigned from employment area to residential area.
OK.
Ça, c'est par commercial.
Ça, c'est pas commercial.
OK. Ça, c'est si on regarde là, dans le plan, c'est ça, c'est le A5, c'est le parc, c'est le développement Bordeaux, de Robert Bordeaux pour commercial, le E5. Puis le E6, c'est d'où qu'il y a le dôme, puis d'où qu'on veut bâtir le complexe. Ça fait que c'est ça, dans les changements en brun, ça dit de employment area to residential area. Puis quand que tu regardes les codes, ça est marqué à commerce et industrie. Fait que
OK.
c'est quoi, c'est quel que ça s'en va dedans?
Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Boudreau.
Oui, alors, juste pour répondre à la question, en fait, c'est dans l'affectation urbaine. Alors, le changement a lieu aux Comtés-Unis par l'entremise du plan officiel. Alors, le terrain de M. Bordeaux ainsi que le dôme, où est localisé le dôme, c'est-à-dire, était dans la désignation expansion économique et ont été changés dans l'affectation urbaine par l'entremise du plan officiel des Comtés-Unis. Alors, nous, par défaut, on doit corriger le tir et ajouter ça dans notre plan officiel pour refléter les changements qui ont eu lieu aux Comtés-Unis. Maintenant, l'affectation urbaine permet une panoplie d'usages qui peuvent être du commercial, du résidentiel et autres formes de développement. Ceci est contrôlé par le zonage. Alors, on va avoir des catégories de zonage qui vont être spécifiques à chacun des terrains. Alors, aujourd'hui, ça fait partie du rapport, étant donné qu'il faut changer la désignation du plan officiel des comtés pour refléter celle du canton. Mais le zonage va quand même dicter qu'est-ce qui est permis ou non parmi les usages prescrits.
So there's a designation criteria, and then there's a zoning criteria. So you manage your zoning through that process.
Fait que si c'est zoné commercial, tu peux bâtir des maisons pareilles? Je pensais que c'était comme séparé, ça.
Non, non. La distinction, c'est une chose, le zonage, c'est séparé. Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Boudreau?
Alors, oui, c'est ça. Alors, pour répondre à la question, le zonage est bel et bien commercial et non, le résidentiel n'est pas un usage permis dans cette zone-là. Mais le terrain fait quand même partie de l'affectation urbaine au plan officiel des Comtés-Unis. Alors, il faut juste faire attention avec l'affectation et le zonage, ce sont deux choses séparées.
Ça, je comprends qu'il a dit, c'est que ça reflète dans le plan. Mais quand tu arrives, ça dit bien to be redesigned from employment area to residential. Ça dit residential area quand c'est écrit la première page, là.
OK. Monsieur Bourgon, Monsieur Boudreau?
Oui, merci. Alors, on peut garder une attention particulière par rapport à ça. Il va falloir imposer une désignation spécifique à chacun des terrains par l'entremise de notre plan officiel. On a des aires qui reflètent ces termes-là. Évidemment, on va se concentrer avec le zonage là, qui a été adopté pour refléter l'affectation. Alors, ça va.
OK. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Monsieur Bisson, for that.
L'autre chose qu'il y avait aussi, c'est que dans les... si tu regardes la map d'Embrun, la section D est comme si elle avait été désignée, mais quand que tu regardes avec le rouge, Land Ended, ça arrête à Saint-Augustin. Il y a le carré de plus, parce que Land, celui en l'air, c'est le carré B et C, mais dans la charte, c'est marqué comme si D avait été accepté, mais pas dans le figure 2.4.
Monsieur Boudreau?
Oui, c'est exact. Le D n'a pas été retenu. Alors, évidemment, le D restera comme agricole pour l'instant. Mais
Donc-
merci pour l'observation.
Ouais,
C'est
donc
très
le
bien.
D devrait être blanc comme le E
Oui,
est.
tout
OK.
à fait.
So the section, so just to,
Yep.
for English purposes, if I look at on page 17 of the report, the colored section D should be blank. Is that correct, Monsieur Boudreau? And not in lined pink to show that it has been included. It should be not included. If I don't speak correctly there, Monsieur Bougon?
Well, I was gonna add that those figures was presented before everything was adopted at the county level.
Okay,
So they explained, but we'll do the clarification moving forward.
thank you.
Ouais, c'est ça, parce que quand on l'avait accepté, je me rappelle dans le temps qu'il était sous conseil, le B et C avaient été acceptés, mais pas le D.
Ouais.
Fait que, une autre petite chose aussi, c'est que c'est pour laisser savoir, dans la parcelle A, elle devrait être désignée, séparée en deux, à cause du creek qui passe dedans, le ruisseau. And I didn't mention it before, it's just that to be services, if you take the full A, it's not service, all of it is not serviceable. But if you take a section west of the creek, it's easy to service because there's even 2 water outlet ready to go there. And it's the continuity of the Menor project. So that's why I was just asking if it could be considered to be split and if the can become in the development for the section on the west part.
Okay, Monsieur Bougon?
Durant l'analyse qui a été faite avant l'adoption au niveau des comtés unis, cette parcelle-là, le bloc A qu'on voit, était analysé en deux sections séparées là, pour répondre à la question des services.
So, like an A1, A2 type of scenario?
Exactly, that's how it was analyzed.
So
at that
then we
time.
should reflect that going forward? Okay, merci.
OK. Juste l'autre chose pour clarifier aussi, le E7, c'est-tu juste parce qu'il a été mis en dedans de zone du village ou s'il est slicé, que c'est parce que dans sa lettre ici, ça dit partial B, C, D, and E7 in the settlement. Mais c'est-tu pour settlement ou c'est pour bâtir
Monsieur
les
Boudreau?
maisons, je veux dire?
Le E7?
Non, ça fait partie de l'affectation urbaine. Puis encore une fois, c'est le zonage là, qui va
OK,
dicter
ça c'est
l'usage.
pour...
Ouais.
OK. C'est juste faire sûr que... parce que j'avais tout le temps entendu parler qu'il n'était pas serviceable, cette section-là, puis que là, comme si elle voulait bâtir des maisons. Fait que- OK,
OK.
merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Tony Bass. I got a big problem with this, especially with the special study area. I have land that's going to be included in that, and I was never asked or told. I thought when I bought property that it was mine, and that when I bought it as agriculture, that it was going to stay agriculture unless somebody asked me if they were allowed to, if they could change it or not. This seems to be just, if they, whatever you want to do, you're going to do. So my question is, how much is that going to affect my property taxes? When I got a 100-acre parcel of land that's now going to be considered in a special study group, which means it's going to eventually become housing, so residential property, compared to my agricultural land property prices. And you guys are going to come back and tell me MPAC is going to take care of that. But I want to know from you guys, how much is that going to affect my property taxes on that parcel of land?
Okay, Monsieur Bourgon? The question about the designation and zoning of lands for Mr. Bass?
Yeah, so he's mentioning the special study. Again, it doesn't mean that will be done now or next 5 years or forever. We're only looking into concentrate our review in these blocks rather than going outside of that. So nothing is changed until it's changed. So the current designation of Mr. Bass' property is agricultural. It hasn't changed through the county's OP. So as it it remains agricultural.
And if it were to be requested to be changed at any point in time, the United Counties would inform the proponent of any property that's being looked at?
There's a special process that to go through. The Planning Act will dictate how people are informed of that. That being said, even if it was to be changed to urban policy area, the right to farm is still a permitted right. As for the taxes, then there's a portion that is applicable to the designation and zoning, but the use itself is a major factor as how property are taxed. So
Okay.
if you're still farming your property, there's a good portion of it that it's applicable to the farming practice of the property for the taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean the value of the property through MPAC will be reduced. Because now all of a sudden it's right beside the village of Russell, right?
Monsieur Bougon, Monsieur Boudreau?
Well, that would be impact to answer, but the land value is dictated by, they have their own source of how to evaluate properties. For sure, the price of Mr. Bass's land will expand if ever there's a sale, but impact has to judge their own meaning as how to arrive to a number. So I can't really answer exactly the question.
Okay.
Okay, and what are the requirements for growth?
What are the requirements for growth?
Yeah, like for the special study areas. At what point will they say that now we're going to use your land as residential?
Okay. Monsieur Bougon, Monsieur Boudreau?
Yes, that's a good question. So the province sets criteria as if there's a need or not to expand. As Mr. Armstrong said previously, the goal is to try to intensify and keep the urban sprawl. However, depending on the growth and the projection of population, which are done through studies by expert, if there is a need that shows we need to expand, then we need to assess which portion of the settlement boundary we need to expand. And again, as mentioned through Mr. Armstrong, one of the key issues or key question is servicing. We need to service land, so we need to see if some of these lands are serviceable, to see if there are some existing farming operations such as barns and things like that. What are the impacts of having residential close to that? So there are selective criterias that we need to decide before, or not we, but we offer a recommendation to the counties and the province in order for them to select which property should be included in the new expansion or not.
And correct me if I'm wrong too, but we also, if I'm not mistaken, we have to have expended a certain percentage of our current available lands before we look to expand any further, because there is a maximum amount of residential, commercial, traded industry within the counties as well. And if we've exhausted ours, we'd have to go get some from somewhere else or request additional outside of the current process. Is that, am I
That is correct. That is the analysis that needs to be done. Is there a need to expand, or can we have development enough for a certain amount of years with the current boundaries that we have?
And with the current boundaries having just been expanded by the counties for future growth, I think we're a long way away from expansion again for additional residential units, based on what I'm seeing.
That is correct, and that was mentioned previously. Once we adopt this new official plan, we need to review it in 5 years to see if there's a need to review it or not. If council deems it's appropriate, then we're still good. We can table that and come back 5 years from now to see if there's a need to re-expand based on development that occurred or not.
And just because a land or a property is in the special study zone, does that automatically mean that those properties are going to be changed, designations and or zoning?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
They need to go through, and they need to be selected. Again, like you said, if there's a need to expand. Again, I want to stress this. We're simply concentrating this area if growth is needed, so that for infrastructure we need to plan beforehand, as if pumping stations and things like that. So we have a better idea as to where we would recommend having expansion if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Just one more question. How many acres of agricultural farmland have we included now in this special study project?
How many acres in the special study project?
Special
Special
study
project,
area.
special area, okay.
I don't have the exact number, but that's something certainly we can provide by request. It's a simple a click and.
Okay,
and-
we'll get that
Mr.
information.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bass, for your comments and your questions.
Mary Chartrand, 183 Hamilton Road. In the slide, there was a comment saying we would update development application processes. Is that for, I'm guessing developers are going to either find it easier or harder to get to go through with the development they want to go through with?
Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Boudreau?
Yes, thank you for the question. Essentially, we're matching what the province is changing in their policies. They've made numerous changes to how applications are made with respect to timeframes, consultations, and things like that. So these are some of the examples. We need to catch up with what the province has changed and also the counties. But for the application itself, it's still binded by the Planning Act, so there is a process that everyone needs to follow.
If I remember correctly, some of the comments that I heard from the province were removing the red tape out of the process. So does that mean that they've cut some of those requirements? Probably, and we have to match those. We have to match those new policy statements and requirements.
Okay, so we're making it easier for developers, and we're saying
The
we're.
province is making it
The
easier for the
province, okay,
developers,
so I
for the
gotta
development
take that up with
community.
Doug Ford.
I just want to make it clear that we
So
are
you-
governed by that.
Right, okay. So this is happening beyond your control, but now we're expanding the boundaries of the villages. So we're saying we're not going to probably need that for some time to meet or to expand to those boundaries. And yet, we're making the development process easier with less red tape. So I'm a little confused by that, I guess, because, you're saying one thing on one hand, and yet it doesn't match. Who justifies the need to expand?
Who justifies the need to
Yes.
expand? Mr. Boudreau?
Thank you. So the request, at least it came in 2022, I'm going to say. There was the counties announced that they were going to review their official plan, so all municipalities had to provide comments as what we see in the next in the future with the new official plan. And then when that was completed, there was a population analysis that was provided, which provides some conclusion as to where the need of population was going to grow. So it was, in a nutshell, the west portion of the counties was going to see more growth than the east of the counties. Being in the west portion of the counties, this was essentially where it came all about, as based on that study from Ensign that was prepared for the population projection.
Okay, thank you.
Because we live closer to Ottawa. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Lalonde?
Yeah, you touched, I just
Okay.
wanted to mention that, you touched on the Hemson report, and I think it's a very important report that if residents haven't looked at it yet, they should. It's available. They can get it through our website. It's a up-to-date 2022 study, demographic analysis, and it really explains where the population is growing, how it's growing through migration, interprovincial, intra-provincial. It gives a good background explanation that serves to explain to us, to that question, do we need to grow? Why should we be growing? If you look at the Hemson study, it gives you a lot of the answers to those questions as to why people are flowing into our area as opposed to others. Are they mostly coming from Ottawa? No, they aren't. There's a good group coming from there, but Hemson shows from how far away they're actually coming to join this municipality, this part of the countryside. So I would urge everybody, if you haven't read it yet, it's great bedtime reading, and it's very up-to-date, and it explains a lot of where this community and the municipality and the region is going to be growing over the next 10 to 15 years.
Thank you.
Catherine Shane, I live at 715 Hamilton Road. I have a question, and it's concerning the water and sewer. Now, I know we get our water from Ottawa.
Okay, just 1 second. So water and sewer, part of the official plan?
Well, it's part of development, right?
I just want to make sure that we're straying in the same territory and we're not getting off topic for another
yeah, that's
session.
Well, we are reviewing our master plan for water and sewer to accommodate those village expansion or boundaries expansion right now. So
Okay.
if the comments really link to the water and sewer, I would recommend to provide us the comments so we can be included under a water and sewer aspect or master plan.
Okay,
Okay, my thing is, and because there is going to be so much development, you need more water. So Ottawa, they have their allocation of water, but they are probably priority because they're going to use up their water first before they'll supply Russell Township.
okay, so if it's a water consumption question, that would not be part of this discussion. So
Why not?
let's make sure that
It's all part of development.
Mr. Bourgon?
Yes, so that comment, it's a valid comment, but under our master plan review for water and sewer. Because
Right.
we are touching on that point of acquiring more water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, no,
I just wanted to make sure if it's in
Yeah.
the right meeting, that's all.
I get it, but I just want the rest of the people that are sitting here to understand that this development may be good, but we may be in the same boat as Winchester and Chesterville when we don't have enough water, so, okay?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Godin, any comment at all? We're good so far?
No, so far we're good. We're still good in time as well.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, good evening. JD Gauthier, 147 Edie Road. I've got a question. The industrial park moving in on the west side, who decided this and why was the park expanding west when it was always communicated that it was going east and south? So what changed and when and who made this decision?
Okay. Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Godin, Mr. Boudreau?
Yeah, I can take it. So yeah, thanks for the question. So essentially, that came down to, again, when the counties initiated their official plan, asked the municipalities to go back to the drawing board in-house to see if there's a need to do some expansion for the population, but also for the growth of industrial park. Again, the MSIM report also provided an explanation with respect to if there's a need to expand in this region. The main focus, which came out of that report, is the proximity of the 417, which was a major factor in the decision as to if there was a need to expand or not. And the MSIM report did recommend to do some expansion in that area. There was also some other expansion done in the Nation municipality, which are also close to the 417. So essentially, that's when it came about. It came to council, I believe, in that period of time, went back to the counties before it was adopted by the province. So essentially, in a nutshell, that's how it was designated and approved.
And by the township owning that land when we do expand that any which way, the fact is we control then what goes in there versus private ownership of that property could bring in whatever they chose at that point in time, as long as it met the zoning and the designation criteria, correct?
So my question was, why did it go west instead of going east and south as it was previously mentioned? And basically
Well,
what we were told previously. So if you go east and if you go south, you've got a direct access with infrastructure right to the 417. You're going west right into residences with no plan to accommodate residential houses. So why did it go west instead of going south and east? I still don't have an answer to my question.
Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Boudreau, any comment or statement on that?
Well, I can add that like the part with the MSIM report, WSP was also retained to present or to analyze the potential land and that was the recommendation that came in front of council in April 22. And that was like council did support the recommendation that went to council, to county council.
Okay.
So it was a consultant that recommended to go west instead of going east and south, correct?
That would be what I'm hearing, yes.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, this trade industrial zone in Emblem area that's being changed back to rural residential or whatever the designation is that land serviceable, and why is it not being used as part of this, this program? Because you want to free up some percentages of land that are back to residential, is that correct?
Monsieur Boudreau, Monsieur Bogon?
I'm not too sure the purpose itself. Again, that was done through the county's official plan. That being said, it's still part of the study area, so we're not putting an X on these properties, but certainly the focus is, can they be serviced or not, will be something that needs to be.
So the designation was changed, but it's not zoned to accommodate residential.
Well, it's been taken out of the trade and industry, and then it's been put as rural, which is quite limited as what you can do on these types of land. But going with the other studies that are ongoing with servicing and everything, we'll have a better knowledge as to what these lands can offer in the future and provide an opportunity for council to maybe reintegrate these lands or not within the village boundary.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. One last question. What plan does the township have to accommodate residents or residential houses that close to an industrial zone or a trade zone? And what are we going to get as security or basically you don't mix those two types of designations. So what's the township going to do so that we can maintain a quality of life? There is no plan or idea that's been put forward as anything that we've seen right now. So infrastructure-wise and...
Are you talking like barrier-wise, or like, I'm just trying to, I want to make sure I get the right...
Well, basically anything. We're a no-truck route on Edie Road, so that's one of the things, but anything else like barrier or what we're gonna get as far as buffers, if we can get bigger buffers, these two types of zones do not mix. No other area has this. So what, we need to have special consideration, right, as to what we're gonna get or what security or, I don't know, buffer or something, right?
Okay. Monsieur Bogon, Monsieur Boudreau, if I'm not mistaken, there is a public meeting coming for that area?
The public meeting will be for the evaluation of the road network
Okay.
within the industrial park. Part of the presentation that was done to council last fall, we did discuss the fact to have a buffer zone depending on the type of usage and a barrier of some kind, maybe with trees along those properties. So that was discussed last fall with council.
Okay. So if there are any additional things that you're looking for, or anyone who lives on that area, please make sure they get to council, get to planning, so that they know about that, and we will be able to look at that when it comes up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sharon Gunsel, 136 Edie Road, across the street from JD. He mentioned the soil and the land and why did it go west? And that has really been a big question in our minds too, that we're on a red clay loam that there's only about a half-mile stretch. It's the same thing that you get in Prince Edward Island. There's a bit in Georgia where my sister lives, and it's a very fertile, rich soil. As a matter of fact, one of the farmers that had a place on Simpier Road said he got double the produce off that land when he rented from us than he got off his own 2 roads over. It's very, very different soil. So expanding west into some of the best farmland that you've got probably in the county, it just seems like a big faux pas, a big mistake to make. But anyway, and we were under the understanding that it was going east and south, and then it would have access to the 417. And as he pointed out, Edie Road is not, it's a non-truck route. And so anything coming out of there, it just has to go back either to Burton, or you can't send it down the road to Russell. Turning, I don't know if you've turned out of Edie Road at Castor, but you can't see for the sign and the trees and things, it's very difficult. There's a curve in the road to see any traffic. If you have large vehicles, that's going to be a dangerous problem.
Just to comment on that, though, Edie
sure.
Road at that corner is getting street lights this summer or this fall.
The design itself is moving forward pretty good, so we're hoping to be able to complete that in a year.
Okay.
And if I can add the comment relating traffic, that's a good comment for a Thursday night meeting.
For Thursday night's meeting.
Well, and
So you've noted it now in case you can't make that meeting, so.
But, yes, to that respect, the traffic is so bad, and I noticed that you have that large piece that you're adding. There is definitely a rush hour, morning and night. Like, it's dangerous. One fellow I was speaking to about 7 houses up from the corner said it took him 15 minutes to cross the road to get his mail because of the steady traffic in the afternoon. And it took him, once he got the mail, 10 minutes to get back across the street. It's just ridiculous. It can be very dangerous. There's a bit of a rise there too. But how is it going to be once you've now added that portion to be settlement land? If it's already that crowded and dangerous, you're going to be adding more on that road. It's just something to consider. I've asked about a traffic study, and I keep being told that, no, we choose our routes first and then we do the study. And I said, it seems a little backwards.
Well, all development needs to be considered for subdivisions. If there's not a recent, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Booth, a recent traffic study for that area, a new traffic study is required in most cases for new subdivisions that are proposed. So especially as the development goes south on Edie Road or North Russell Road, then more studies will need to be done for them to meet that, unless there's a study. I think Mr. Bourgon said at one of our last meetings that there was a study done, but that another one was going to need to be looked at, but I can let Mr. Bourgon speak to that.
So once we, the EA for the Class E that's being done right now for the pattern of the roads are looking at the major flow, what type of potential industry or commercial, and then we do a traffic study to determine what type of improvement needs to be done afterwards at the intersection. So it will be done by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Which intersection are you referring to?
Mr. Bourgon?
Well, we know the Eddie and Burton, the existing ones in the park, and where the new ones will be. So depending of the result of our Class EA, then you look at those intersections.
Okay.
So there's no point of completing a traffic study before we know where the potential road will be.
Okay.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree about that, because I would think having the numbers will help you decide what to do. But thank you for answering the question.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Rhonda Bradley, 159 E Road again. I wanted just to provide some clarity. There's a couple of Hempson reports that are out there. We, from the township, had our own Hempson report produced in 2020, and it was related to the servicing of the industrial park. And it was in that report that misinformation was included and never corrected, and that was that the area was predominantly vacant, which it is not. So that's one Hempson report. And the
Hold
second,
on, Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Godin, are we aware of misinformation in the Hempson report? I want to make sure that we're...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we are aware that there was a map in the report which was meant to highlight the industrial lands in the industrial park, the area that has just been expanded as trade industry. But in the actual report, it encompassed as well the homes that are on Edie Road. So that was brought forward to our attention after that report was adopted. So we did acknowledge that, and we had that discussion with council as well.
Okay.
The report hasn't been regenerated, but we did acknowledge that and acknowledge the error.
Thank you.
with respect, that is inaccurate. It is still listed in the report in the actual text that the area is vacant.
Okay, Mr. Bogon?
I was going to add that the IMSIN report done for the purpose of the official plan was completed with the county.
Correct,
And
in
that's-
2022.
Hold on.
Exactly, so that's the one that we're referring here.
So we're
for
referring to the
exit-
2022 report, not the 2020 report.
Exactly, the one that's really stated about population and
Okay.
forecast of population within the county. So that's the one that we're using in the purpose of this exercise here for the
Okay.
official plan.
So there was an error made in the original report from 2020 that was acknowledged and stated publicly. It's not misinformation, it was an error in the actual process.
And I can add that that report was used when we were determined if we were to service or not the 417 industrial park with water and sewer.
Okay,
That
thank
was the
you.
only purpose of the report that we're referring here.
Thank you.
The reason why I'm raising it is that we keep referencing the Hemson report, and there's more than one. So I'm just trying to clarify, and I'm also pointing out that one of the reports that our township used to justify and advocate to change some of the area within the industrial park comes from that report related to the water wastewater servicing. So that's why it's pretty important to me, and I have read it cover to cover, and I know what it says and what it doesn't. The second thing I wanted to point out is I've heard this come up a few times within this meeting about what the county, what's in the county's plan. And what I would really like to clarify for my residents that are here with me, my fellow residents, and also stress to council, is that many of those decisions were made by our township and our planning department and then forwarded as recommendations that the county approved based on our recommendations, or our township's recommendations.
That is how the process works. The counties reaches out to each municipality for comment and recommendations, and then the county council approves based on those recommendations. And then each municipality, I'm just stating it for the public as well, so that everyone understands that that is the way the process works.
I understand that also. I think where I have an objection is that it kind of sounds like these decisions were imposed on us and that we are kind of devoid of all responsibility for some of the decisions that we've made. In fact, many of them were derived either in our planning department or in this room. So I just want to make sure that we're really clear about that.
So I have a question for staff. Has this process changed at all over the years in terms of how official plans get done?
One of the major changes was in the last, not the official plan that was adopted at the counties, but the one before that was approved by the counties themselves, whereas this, in 2023, it was adopted by the ministry. So the ministry had the power for the final decision on that process.
But I mean, reaching out to the municipalities to
No, that's-
solicit input on their official plan. That process has not changed over the years.
No.
Thank you.
No, but where I'm going with my point is that the residents of this township look to our township, our administrative staff, and our council to keep us engaged and informed. And it is not necessarily the responsibility of the county, or at least I don't hold them to the same level of account that I would expect my township. So that's my point that I'm trying to make, that even when we're part of this process again in the next 5 to 10 years, I hope that this experience provides some learning opportunity in that I'd like to see my township play a stronger role when they are communicating changes to the county about the recommendations.
Thank you for your comments.
My last point is really to pick up on some of the suggestions that have been made to create a better relationship between incompatible land uses, industrial and residential. And one of the things that I'd like to see considered is night sky policy. So right now, I don't know if any of you have driven past the industrial park, but it's lit up like the spaceship. And all the things that we care about in terms of the environment, like biodiversity and things like that, are really impacted by light pollution. And I don't really see that anywhere in this plan.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bourgon. Mr. Boudreau, taking notes. Thank you.
Hi, Candace Vetter with CJRO Radio. I live at 575 Route 100. So I have a few questions that have come up just listening to this, and I'm going to have more questions later. You'll all be getting emails. Mr. Bordeaux said that the counties in 2022 took an in-house decision, which then came to council, then back to the counties, then the province. So this was all decided in-house, like without consultation, other than the newspaper ad that we keep being told is acceptable as consultation.
Mr. Boudreau, I don't understand that that's what you said, but I'll let you answer that.
As part of the notification, each application has to comply with the Planning Act. It is my understanding that the counties went accordingly when they did the process of the review of their official plan. We're doing the same as part of our review. We're having this special meeting. We'll have some further in-house meeting before adopting, again, coming back to council. So there's going to be more opportunity for the public to voice their comments and concern. And in the meantime, this is the reason we're expressing to reach out for people to provide their written comments for us prior to come back to council. So I'm not sure what the counties did exactly. I'm sure they complied, but we're doing our part as part of the Planning Act too.
When you say in-house, I just want to clarify, that's within our municipality, not within this building. Is that my understanding?
Well, we're going to have a whole, as mentioned in the previous slides, that we're going to hold another statutory meeting.
For the public, for the municipality.
Exactly.
Yes.
But the original decision was made in 2022, and there's nothing that can be done to change that decision, is what I've been hearing at previous council meetings when this has come up.
The 2022
right?
decision, which exact decision?
The one that was made by the population analysis and that the UCPR made in 2022. When Mary Chartrand asked who justifies the need to expand, Mr. Boudreau said that.
Okay, Mr. Boudreau?
Well, if you're referring to the county's decision, it was done at the counties. They did, as you mentioned previously, Mr. Lorrain, ask for input from the township. Each township provided some input and reviewed by the counties, and then went to the ministry for a decision. So that's pretty much how the process went for that particular the OP adoption of the counties.
Okay, thank you.
So all of this was decided before
Publicly.
2022?
Publicly
But
decided.
not publicly?
Absolutely, every meeting is open to the public.
But where was this decided? Like, I've looked back at numerous township council meetings, and I
That would be
cannot find
the
this.
county, at the county meeting? Mr. Boudreau?
That's correct. There was a meeting at the counties. I believe there was some meetings, regular meetings from council here. But again, the final decision came at the counties. They had a meeting there to adopt that decision.
Would it be possible to get the exact dates that those meetings were held on so that the public can know exactly when these decisions were made and by whom?
Yeah, give me a second, Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Godin. I'll come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorrain. So yeah, we can provide those dates, but I would just want to highlight the fact that why we're here tonight. It's really to take comment on like the draft policy and like moving forward to adopt our revised OP by 25.
Yep, thank you. Councilor Deacon?
Thanks. I just wanted to be able to add that I remember the date well that the council, the former term of council, looked at the expansion of the settlement and industrial zones, and that was in April of 2022. It was virtual, it was recorded. You'll be able to find the live stream. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly which date in April, but if that's helpful.
No, that's helpful. Thanks. So also, the SEMA report of they were here, was that last week or the week before? CIMA, because they were talking about expanded settlement areas and expanded industrial park areas. And they also had arrows for the industrial park, even moving further west than it has. This is a new map, the latest map, and it's pointing right at a forested westland. And I'm wondering, they called it an environmental assessment, but was there any environmental assessment done on actual natural environment?
Mr. Bugault?
There's nothing that was done on those projected arrows, like it's being referred to. That's only a map that was used by staff to have a discussion with council on where or if we bring services to the park. So CIMA Plus, under the master plan, reused that map just to highlight the area of the park.
Thank you.
The one with the arrows pointing west of Edie Road?
Mr. Bourgon?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that has never been communicated before in any form that I can find.
Well, this just happened last week, did it not?
Yeah, but that map was used during our, I think was May of '23, when we discussed the servicing or not servicing portion of the park. We used that map to, if we are to, like in 100 years, keep on servicing where it would go, obviously when, like, it would go south and on both direction, east and west. So it was just a
And again,
general
every-
map provide, like, build with staff, so it wasn't, that's it, yeah. There's nothing really, no study made or no expansion, no, it was just for the discussion with council at that time.
Okay.
So this was just a casual thing, just throw these people's properties onto a map and see what happens? Is that
Okay,
how
we're,
that's working?
it's not, Mr. Bourgon, do you have a response? They have to provide us with something to review, right?
Well, I'll say that map's not being used in the official plan review right now, and it's not being used for, like, the full master plan study. It was just used as a reference of where the park is located.
Thank you.
So another question I have, were former Golder consultants involved in the WSP report?
Mr. Bourgon, any comment on that?
I'll have to double check and come
Okay.
back with the answer.
Okay.
Okay, because we've dealt with Golder before. Now I had another question here. Oh, how many acres of farmland have been and I don't expect an answer instantly, but I think it's an important question. How many acres of farmland have been redesignated in this township since 2010?
Okay.
So
We can
if
get that number.
Okay, thank you.
Rhonda Bradley, 159 ED. My question is it within the power of this township to ask the United Counties of Prescott-Russell to amend or land swap some of the designated areas?
Mr. Bourgon?
I apologize, could you repeat the question? I missed the first part of it.
Is it within the capacity of our township to make a request of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell to amend or land swap areas that have been included in either settlement or industrial areas? So they basically determine the total amount of acreage required. They don't necessarily always recommend the exact location. So my question is it possible to amend or land swap and still keep the total amount of acreage for employment and residential?
Okay, I think I can start that answer, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Boudreau, but I believe, and I think I said this earlier, if we were to require additional trade and industry land, as an example, I'm not saying we do or we don't, I'm just using it as an example, there is a maximum amount in the counties designated as trade and industry. Therefore, the township would have to make a request to another municipality through the counties to say, you have 100 acres of trade and industry that you're not going to use or you may not use. We require 100 acres. We can identify 100 acres in our municipality. Can we make some sort of a deal where we can acquire that trade and industry designation? I believe that is within our purview. Mr. Boudreau, please expand if you can?
So, to respond to Mrs. Bradley's question, if ever that would be the request, it would have to come from council, and we would reach out to the counties to see if that's a possibility or not. They are the approval authority, so essentially we can ask the question, and they'll say if it's, it can be done or not, and if so, what process is needed to go in that route.
So the process that you just described would be an exchange between the townships within the county. I'm asking if there's a possibility to make changes or amendments to the areas as designated within our own area and our own township.
So change it from what they've made it to something back to whatever it was? Is that what you're asking?
We would still have the same amount of area for each of the areas, but we could move where those areas are located.
Mr. Boudreau?
Yeah, so that's the question, and I think what you're referring is an example of the residential area or the village boundary, if they were to be moved from north to south or vice versa. Again, that type of question, we would need direction from council to ask to the counties if that's doable or not, in order for them to answer if there is a way to make that happen under which policy, as they are the approval authority for that type of change of designation.
Okay, thank you.
Me again, Sharon Gunsel, 136 Edie Road. Rhonda mentioned vacant land that's in the Hempson report. That's our place. We're the arrow that goes across from the industrial park. And we've been there 46 years, and we have 33 acres in fertile soil in production with a local farmer. We had put in 1,000 apple trees, lost a few hundred to the deer and the rabbits, but we still have about 700 of them. And various plants, currant bushes, grapevines. And if you look on the Henson report, they took a picture of our 100-year-old barn that hasn't been used in many years. We have a large shed. And they just put vacant land. And that's the description that was made by the people here that went in that report that would have gone on to Toronto. It doesn't really reflect, in truthfulness, what it is.
Okay.
And so that's why I think she brought that up. So that's the kind of discrepancy. If people are given information that isn't correct about what's going on there, and especially, as I said, about the quality of the land, I don't think there should ever be an arrow coming across to take over that land as well. We've also put in 10 acres of woods at the back to reforest, and boy, we've lost hundreds of acres down Edie Road of woodland. So it's not vacant.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Candace Vetter again, 575 Route 100. So the township can choose not to develop though, right? Like you have that option.
Mr. Bourgon, Mr. Boudreau?
If we are referring to the land owned by the municipality, that's a decision that council has, yes.
What about land? So any of the expanded areas, whether it's settlement or industrial, do you have, like, what if, can you just decide not to develop it?
Can we restrict them can we restrict somebody who owns that land to bring a subdivision to council or to the staff and council reject it? I believe we could, but then I think that proponent would then have an ability to go to the LPAT and make an objection to the LPAT and come back to township with that decision. So
would that be bad? Like, what if?
Would we win is the question.
Well, would you win? That's always nice to
Right?
win. But also, maybe there should be some questions asked about some of these decisions.
And I think the province is where a lot of those questions should be asked.
So
If they're
Queen's
asking
Park
for
is good.
if the province is asking for expansion of residential property, then and they're making it easier to build, and we say no, you can't expand here. The proponent goes to LPAT and gets a decision that says yes. They're going to look at us and go, "What are you doing?" right? Like, we kind of have to be bound by the policy statement that's put in place by the province. So we do our best with what we have, but if they are allowing that to develop and the owner comes with the plan that meets all of the criteria, it's difficult to say no.
It's difficult.
Am I mistaken there, Mr. Godin, Mr. Boudreau, Mr. Bourgon?
No, that's correct. I mean, that's the intent, and the appeal right is the power of the private owner to appeal or not any decision that's taken. Again, the plan of subdivision, a major say is via the municipality, but the approval authority is the counties itself, and they have the final say on the decision on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Doug Esterbrooks, 580 Route 100. Bit of a cough today, sorry. I live on Route 100, close to ED Road. I noticed that recently the township purchased some land from the Patno family for $56,302 an acre. Is that going to have impact on my taxes going forward?
Okay, that's not a question for this official plan. If you want to, if you have, Mr. Easterbrook,
for the industrial park?
Mr. Easterbrook, if you have a question regarding the official plan,
Was that land
we will talk
purchased for
about
the
it.
industrial park?
Okay, I'm going to ask
That's
you
my question.
one more time. That's not
question.
part of the official plan
My
discussion
question
for
is-
this evening. If you have that question,
Yes.
I suggest you send it in email form
Okay.
you can send it directly to myself, jlauren@russell.ca,
I know who you are.
and I will ensure that you get a response from administration on that specific question.
Okay.
If you want questions regarding the official plan, which is what we've talked about tonight, we have no problem answering your questions, comments, or concerns. If you have questions outside of that particular item, we cannot answer those this evening, and they should not be asked tonight.
Was that land purchased for the purpose of
Next
industrial?
person, Mr. Van Dusen, if you'd like to step up, you feel free.
I'd just like to make a comment. I can put it in the form of a question if you want.
You're allowed comments as long as it's regarding the official plan.
Well, it is. So I find it's a travesty what's happening to these people who live up on ED Road because of the expansion of this industrial park. They came out here to settle, they came out here to raise kids, they came out here to get away from the busy life of the city and all of the crime and all of the prohibitions that go with that, and put down roots here, built apple farms, orchards. And now, because of decisions they don't understand, and frankly, I don't either really, although I'm somewhat of a casual observer. I live in North Russell, but we're not deadly close to that industrial park. I mean, we're dealing with human lives here. And these people have to sleep at night with this and put up with the stress every day of watching soon that industrial park creep up the hill behind them and have to rearrange their lives accordingly. I think it's inhuman. I think it's god-awful. And I think more consideration should be given to what's going to happen to them. It's okay to sit back and say, oh, it's just a few people. But it scares the hell out of the rest of us, too. If it can happen to them, it can happen to the rest of us anytime. And it doesn't really raise my confidence level in Russell Township. I wish I could say that differently. I've lived here 50 years, and it shouldn't be happening to them. There should be at least, why so big? Why so fast? Well, why right up to their back doors? Why can't there be some sort of a buffer? Or nothing? It just doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
JD Gauthier, 147 ED Road. Just to touch on one of the points here. I've been talking to a lot of neighbors in the last couple days. I've probably spent about 20 hours. I did all of the east side of ED Road. I've talked to every single one except for 4, which I plan on doing in the next day. My question or my comment is, what's the social or the security impact on the residents? So I talked to one of the neighbors. They said there's theft, drugs, and car racing, and I personally will attest to this. There is drag racing in the industrial park almost every night. We hear tires screeching, cars racing. I have not seen an OPP officer in our area in probably 3-4 months. So what plan does the township have based on this expansion to protect us as residents? These two uses do not mix, and this is proof. There's drugs, there's garbage, and there's racing almost every night happening there. So if we're gonna be residences in the backyards where there's gonna be road access, the crime rate's gonna go up. So what plan or what studies have been made for the social or the security impact of the residences that are close to this park? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have an answer for you tonight on that. That comment is being taken into account. We have our bylaw, director of bylaw here. She can hear that information, relay information to the OPP. I can tell you for certainty that is the first time I have personally heard of racing in the industrial park. So no one has ever brought that to my attention. I don't know if other members of council have heard of that, but that's the first time that anyone has ever mentioned that to me.
Well, if anybody feels like driving in the industrial park, you'll see tire marks all over the road. Just feel free to go. Thank you.
Mr. Bourgon?
Merci, Conseiller Lorrain. So looking at the time, maybe we could proceed with the wrapping up the meeting. Residents are encouraged to still provide us with their comment. The email was provided earlier this evening.
It's still on the screen, so planning@russell.ca. So yeah, I think that's a good point. So it's better if you have one more question. I'll allow one more question, and then we'll move forward.
Thank you. So I've been hearing a rumor for about 4 years that development was planned to go eventually from St. Pierre Road all the way to Boundary Road and down to Route 200, and I didn't believe it. But now I want to know, is that true?
St. Pierre Road to Boundary Road?
All across North Russell?
Mr. Godin, Mr. Bourgon?
I'm not sure I understand the reference of what type of development or what's being discussed or asked.
I don't know either. That's just what the rumor has been.
Okay, so at this point, it's not part of the official plan process, so that'll be something we'll have to do. We'll have to ask in a separate time. Thank you. Any other comments before I close the meeting? I just want to make sure. Mr. Bass, I'll give you one last one.
So I just want to make one comment that the Corporation of Russell Township, I hope you guys understand that you're there because of the Russell Township residents who pay taxes. And we have a voice when we feel that we are never listened to, or that we are heard, but you don't respond to us. So that's why we're here tonight, because we're kind of getting a little bit pissed off at some of you guys.
Okay,
And it's just a comment. I'm hoping that you guys are going to be more willing to listen to people.
Mr. Bass, I can tell you as someone who's been sitting here for 18 years that I have listened, and I know every member of council listens when somebody asks a question. And when people call us or email us or text us, you get responded to. I can guarantee that. So to sit there and say that we do not listen is inappropriate and incorrect. I believe that we do respond to everything that we get.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure that you understand each other, that you guys are there because of our
We
tax dollars.
fully understand the roles that we have accepted and for which that we have been elected to do. Not one of us at this table doesn't understand why we are here, how we got here, and who we are here for. So thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
So we will move to number 6, resolutions. The council received report PD 2024-22 dated May 22nd, 2024, and the council direct the administration to update the official plan as per section 26.3 of the Planning Act. This is moved by Councillor Taranowski, seconded by Councillor Lalonde. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2024-041 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the Corporation of the Township of Russell at its special meeting held on May 27, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and passed. This is moved by Councillor Deacon, seconded by Councillor Teranoski. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Our next meeting will be held shortly this evening at 6 p.m. or very close, or very shortly thereafter. Do we have to get a mover and seconder to adjourn, or do we just adjourn? Okay. I want to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon. I know it was a very early meeting, and some of you may have had to get out of work a little bit earlier or get here early, so I appreciate that. Council appreciates your time and effort this evening. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup pour tout le monde d'être ici ce soir. Et merci beaucoup. The meeting is adjourned at 5:50.